Hey, it's week 2 of Love Like Jesus. I know what you're thinking. I'm hungry, right? Maybe you're not hungry. Maybe you just got done being hungry because you guys eat in your group. But listen, hunger is a really natural thing that every human in every part of the world and every time has dealt with. Everybody who has lived has been hungry at one point. And so it's interesting that when you look at the second way that Jesus loved people in Scripture, he fed them. He fed the hungry. Listen, here's what I want to challenge you on. It's really easy, if we're not careful, to take something like physical needs and make them unspiritual, right? Like God heals the heart. It's kind of up to us to deal with the practical stuff. And Scripture paints a different picture, right? If Jesus cared enough to feed people that are hungry, what does that tell us about the value that God puts on our physical needs? They must matter to him, right? He took the time to do something about a problem. And that problem was that people needed food. That was God's idea, right? Like he's the one that wired us to need food. And so obviously he takes a great deal of care in meeting the needs that he designed us to have. The really cool thing about this story though is that Jesus didn't feed the hungry by himself, right? Look at what the text says. He invited his followers into helping him meet the needs of the people around them. Did Jesus need the disciples to feed the hungry? No, he could have snapped his finger. Everybody would have had a Happy Meal bag just right in front of him, you know? He didn't do that. There's a reason that he called his followers to take part in meeting the needs of the people around them. And I think that he did that because he wants our hearts to be attuned to the needs of the people around us. It brings God joy to involve us in meeting the needs of the people around us because that's what he wired us to do. When we meet the needs of the people around us, we reflect the character of God to them in a unique way. And so when it comes to feeding the hungry, what does it look like for you to do that? You don't have to turn a couple of loaves and fish into food for a couple of thousand people to love people by meeting their physical needs. Maybe it's food, maybe it's clothing, maybe it's something entirely different. But this week, we have an opportunity to examine all of the wealth and the extra that God has given us. And don't tell me that you don't have it, because we live in the richest part of the country, in the richest part of the world, in the richest part of history. Everyone can do something to help meet the needs of the people around them, right? And so what I want you to do this week is be focused and intentional as you go through the study guide, as you go through conversations, as you go through Scripture, about where you can meet the needs of the world around you. Because listen, meeting physical needs is a spiritual act. Jesus paints that picture for us clearly. And so I want you guys to talk through that connection. I want you to talk about the power of physical needs. I want you to talk about the power of contentment. And I want you to talk about the way the gospel is going to go into the world because your group meets physical needs in the next week.